Welcome, everybody, to this podcast. Today, we're talking about unique, very effective, and great ways to expand your vocabulary in English. So we're going to give you some great tips. These are proven to work, so stay tuned. We're going to get started in just a second. First, let's say hello to Leon, our guest. How are you, Leon?
Good, Ben. How's it going, man? How's everything with you?
Great. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hey, everyone. What's up? How's it going?
Yeah, I hope you all are doing well. Thank you for joining, listening to this podcast. And once again, we're going to give you guys tips on how to expand your vocabulary. These are great tips, and some of them I'm sure you've never heard before. So let's get started. Everybody learning English, really any language for that matter, you want to improve your vocabulary and you want to do it in an organic way. You really want to avoid memorizing words. That doesn't work. And this certainly, even if it does work, you won't remember the words you memorize, and nor will you use them properly. So you want to learn vocabulary in a very organic way, and this is how you do it. So let me give you one tip. Let's start with this first great tip, and that is learn word families. Learn word families. What does that mean? It means you should study related words together. So if you were to try to actually learn words, right? Let's say you hear a word. Okay, go ahead and look it up. And let's say the word is teacher. So what I mean about word families is, so you'll try to also learn the words related to teacher, like teach, teaching, right? Teach, teacher, teaching. These are word families. They're kind of groups that relate to each other. And this helps you understand how words are connected and used differently. So once again, if you are, let's say, in conversation and you hear a word, obviously you know what teacher means, but I'm just using it as an example. Let's say you hear the word teach, you don't know what it means, you look it up. That's what you find out what it means. Now you're going to learn the related words like teacher and teaching, taught, which is the past tense, all the words related to teach, teacher, teaching. So this is a word family. Learn those and try to use them in sentences. What do you think about that idea, Leon?
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with you more. I mean, it's always important because it helps build your vocabulary words and it just expands it by doing that. So yeah, I'm agree with you 100%.
Okay, good. All right, so give that a try, and also in that vein, learn synonyms and antonyms at the same time. Practice with synonyms and antonyms. If you want to improve your vocabulary range, this helps with understanding nuances in meaning. So synonyms are words that mean the same thing, but they are different words. Antonyms are words that mean the opposite, right? They're different words, so they mean opposite things. Well, let's give an example of a synonym. So a word like, how about eat? How about eat, right? You all know eat. And then what's a synonym for eat? Ingest. How about that? Ingest. I mean, it's a more technical word and you're not likely to use it as much in everyday speaking, but it is a synonym, right? Ingest is a synonym of
Mhm.
eat. Can we think of other examples?
Uh,
Let's
I
see.
can't think of one right now. I'm drawing blank, but yeah, I mean, there's all
How about
kinds
like
of words.
draw?
Yeah,
Let's piggyback off of what you said. Drawing. Okay,
yeah.
so a synonym for draw, right, might be like
Hmm.
sketch, right? So that's
Hmm.
a synonym. So you guys, and what about antonym? The opposite of something. The opposite, right? Of
Hmm.
let's say to 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 write something versus to erase something. To erase what you've just written, that would be a sort of an antonym, right?
Hmm. Right. I was still thinking about the eat was like the antonyms of eat. I mean, for me, it's like to starve, right? To starve yourself.
Oh,
You know.
true. Yes. I mean,
Hmm.
there's obviously some simpler ones too, like hot, cold,
Yeah.
antonyms, opposite,
Hmm.
near,
Right.
far, tall, short,
Hmm. Hmm.
quiet, noisy, destroy, create,
Right.
divide, unite, able, unable,
Hmm.
finished, unfinished. Okay, we can go on. It's not a vocabulary lesson, but I just want to illustrate for you to show you what is a synonym, what is an antonym. And I think you should learn words like this. When you learn a word, try learning the antonym of it. Try learning the
Hmm.
synonym of it. It'll help put the word, the vocabulary word that you just learned in context, and try forming sentences with these synonyms and antonyms. It really helps you understand the word on a deeper level, rather than,
Hmm.
again, just encountering the word, memorizing it, memorizing the definition. That doesn't work very well. So this is how you do it.
Hmm.
Okay, what other tips should we give people?
Yeah, since we're on this topic about the vocabulary and how to expand it, reading a book depends on what kind of book, articles and newspapers. I always tell my students, like, if you're in a professional, like in an engineer, and you want to expand your vocabulary words in that profession, then you would go on the internet and look up an article related to your profession, say an engineer. That way you can build your vocabulary words. So when you go to interviews, some of these technical vocabulary in your profession, or
Right.
maybe, for example, if you're in the automotive industry in in your profession as an engineer, you look it up in the articles regarding about automotive vehicles and cars, and try to expand your vocabulary in that, because that's what your profession is. So that's going to help you improve and make more vast vocabulary. I mean, you can read books, depends on what you like, whether that you have passion about or you enjoy, like maybe novels or mysteries. I mean, that's great. It's going to help you improve in your writing and your grammar and etc. The more you read, but that's more kind of a leisure kind of reading. So for it's more like a normal conversation kind of thing. But if you want to learn more in a professional standpoint, then you got to go read articles that relates to your profession, whether that's specific magazines or newspapers or articles. I always say articles because it's the best thing. You don't have to buy any books. You just go on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, which is that essentially what you need to read and learn, vocabulary that you need to learn, are vocabulary that matter to you, right? So, like
Hmm.
Leon said, if you work in a certain industry, you have a certain type of job, well, it would be great to read articles of that category, of that genre, of that subject matter. You're not going, okay, if you're an engineer and you want to improve your vocabulary so you can do better at work, you're not going to go read Shakespeare. It makes no sense, right?
Yeah,
And this is,
exactly.
yeah, and this is how disconnected English education is, because if you take a class, if you learn from quote formally, they are going to teach you from literature that doesn't help you in your work. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, everything informs everything, and your English will be better by reading classical literature. But I mean, if you just want a quick shot in the arm, you want that confidence to be able to go into a meeting and speak with clarity and using vocabulary that makes sense in that industry, you have to read specific to exactly the industry that you work in. And by doing so, you'll understand the words, not only the words to use, but how to use them, the phrases. Because again, you're not just learning a word, you're learning a phrase, right? And some of these, depending on what industry you're in, sometimes there are the terms of art. Terms of art meaning it's just a phrase that people use in certain industries or sectors that they don't use anywhere else. So you need to be able to use not only the correct word, but the correct phrase that accompanies it. So like in law,
Hmm.
let me give you an example. So like in law, there's this concept called fruit of the poisonous tree. You're never going to hear anybody say that, right? But
Hmm.
what that
Hmm.
means is basically evidence that is illegally seized. This is criminal law. Evidence that is illegally obtained. Everything that you get from that illegal, let's say, going into a person taking that, going into a person's house taking that piece of evidence. If you had no right to be there, everything you take from there is also poisoned. You can't use it as evidence against the defendant. So that phrase is fruit of the poisonous tree. You're not going to use fruit of the poisonous tree in any other context. People will laugh at you, and you're going to look really stupid if you use that phrase outside of the legal community. However, if you're a lawyer, that's exactly the phrase you need to use. You can't use
Hmm.
it. There's no better phrase than that. So this is what Leon is trying to tell you, is that it's language is very specific to the industry when you're talking about in a business context, or many other contexts as well. So that's how you do it. Read so that you learn vocabulary that matters to you, not just for work, but just in whatever world you live in. Read to learn words and phrases that makes a difference in your life, that actually means something to you. So that's a great tip, Leon.
Mhm. Yeah, and I got another tip that I want to indicate. But before I say this tip, I want to, educate you listeners out there that by listening to this podcast, this is a podcast that you're getting free stuff. Like you're not getting paid. It's a great tip. We're different than other podcasts out there, and the things that you're gonna learn here are far more exceeds than what you learn outside. And I truly believe that. The things that I'm saying here, it's free. This is what I tell to my students, and normally I would not share these type of things, but you're getting things that we're discussing today. So that's why I said we're in a different class in terms of other podcasts out there, because we're really diving deep into these conversational things. And for me, this is a great thing. And the one that I mentioned to you about, the one tip too, is that not you don't hear this in many podcasts, is that why not read a dictionary? Of course, you're not gonna read all of everything in the dictionary, because some of the words are outdated or not used. But for me, the dictionary is a great tool for you to learn a lot of vocabulary, because there are over 250,000 vocabulary English words out there, or even maybe over 300,000, more than any other English languages. So by going to the dictionary, you actually literally learn a lot of vocabulary words. You just have to be careful, because some words are outdated and things like that. But still, learning and reading a dictionary is one great tool to learning and building your vocabulary.
All right. So make sure if you are going to read from a dictionary, make sure you try to learn how to use the words properly, because there is that
Yes.
danger of not using it properly despite knowing the meaning. So, all
And
right.
they do have sentences there on the dictionary, so
That's the
that's
most
another great
important
thing.
thing. Yeah,
Yes.
I would say that's the
Yeah.
most important thing, is to make sure you're reading the sentence and the
Yeah.
examples, rather than just reading the
hmm
definition. I'm afraid to advise people to read a dictionary, because they tend to just start memorizing definitions without really understanding the meaning. But
hmm
if people are going to also read the sentences and the samples, then that could work. But you have to make sure that when you go down that road of reading a dictionary, you'd have to do that extra work of you've got to read the sample sentences, otherwise you're going to get it all wrong.
Yeah, the digital dictionary is the great. I'm not talking about the hard copy, right? I'm talking about more the
Yes. Oh
soft
yeah,
copy.
online. Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's online. So when you look at it, yes, Ben is absolutely correct. You just don't have to memorize the definition. They have sentences there. You gotta read the sentences. You gotta read
Yeah.
everything there. And also it helps you in the pronunciation, because on the digital, you just click on it and it'll help you tell you how to pronounce it. So for me, this is a great tool. With the technology, and of course, as we're talking about how to build your vocabulary, what are the techniques, and dictionary happens to be one of them. If you're memorizing it, okay, cool, you're memorizing, you're building your vocabulary words. But if you're not using in the right context and sentences, then it's going to be really awkward, and it's inappropriate for you to use. So yes, you got to look at the sentences, make sure you understand it, and that's part of being immersed in it. Yeah.
I, okay. So I recommend you guys to get the sample sentences. You go to Reverso, 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 like the word reverse with the O at the end, of Reverso. So go to Reverso. The great thing about that type of translator is that it doesn't just give you the definition. In fact, I think the definition is not is very incomplete. No, there's no definition of a word that is complete. Okay, so you have to
hmm
understand that's about only 30% of it. What's great about Reverso is that it gives you a whole bunch of sample sentences so that you can see how the word is used, so you can understand context. So do that. Go to Reverso, type in your word, and read. I would say the most important thing is to read the sentences, the sample sentences, because honestly, you can guess the meaning from reading the sample sentences better than if you were to just read the definition. I think the definition is actually not that is not that helpful and is terribly incomplete. If you just read all the sample sentences, you will not only understand, you will understand the meaning and how to use that word much better. So do that. Reverso, guys. Reverso.
There you go. There you have it. And another thing about reading is not just reading in your mind. I actually tell my students you have to read out loud, because when you read out loud, it's going to help you in your speaking, and also part of your speaking too. Because when you're not reading out loud and you're reading in your mind, everything you pronounce, everything you say is 100% perfect. But when you start reading out loud, then you really see how it sounds. And then the other thing you can do is record yourself and play it, and then you can critique yourself and see whether it's, to your standard, or maybe you can compare it to pronunciations when you study, like maybe movies or words that you Google, the pronunciation, etc. So make sure when you read out loud, because that's going to really help you speak better, or improve your speaking and also your listening too.
Yes, absolutely. Read out loud. You'll hone your pronunciation as well. Um, and you can also play word games. That way, it makes
Hmm.
it fun and engaging to learn new vocabulary, and again, in a very natural way. So, if you're able to play with somebody, fine. But if not, you can play online. You can use apps. So you can play word games like Scrabble, do crossword puzzles. I don't know. Do
Hmm.
people still play? What is it? Words with Friends? Is that the name? It's like online. It's like an online Scrabble, right? Words with Friends. Do you remember that?
Mm.
Hold on.
Not Words with Friend. I don't think I ever played it on online. I played the board game, which is the hard cop, basically the the board game itself, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, Scrabble is excellent because it helps you improve in your
Excellent.
spelling, right? Because it tells you how you spell, and if you don't know how to spell it, you're forced to go to the dictionary and find out what is the spelling of it, and also the meaning, if it is a true word that you're creating. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think Scrabble is an excellent board game. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure they have like an app for it as well. Words with Friends
Yes.
is like
Uh-huh.
Scrabble. It's
Mm.
just online only, I think. Yeah, it's online only. It's not a board game. But it's just literally like a clone of
Mm-hmm.
Scrabble, but it's online. I'm sure yes,
Mm.
it's available on the App Store, Google Play, and Apple App Store. So yeah, download these apps, play these word games. They are fun. They will help you learn, and also reinforce a vocabulary that you have learned. And that's the way to do it, because
Mm-hmm.
you want to do it in a way that's engaging and fun. The learning happens when it comes to vocabulary and language. Learning happens when you don't even realize it, and that is the best, and I would argue the most complete way of learning is when you're not even trying to learn, but when you're doing other things and you end up picking up the language that way. So do that. Play the game.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and everything is on the app now. I mean, everything is free. I mean, of course, some
Yeah.
of them are you have to pay subscriptions and all that, but yeah, everything is on the app now. I mean, another thing that I like playing is Hangman, right? If you play
Oh
Hangman,
yeah.
that's going to also help you, maybe spell some words, or you can just maybe play with your friends and see whoever makes a mistake loses, right? Like say, for example, you tell to your friend spell 13, and if the person makes a mistake, then that person loses. And then if you get it correct, if that person gets it correct, then it's gonna say to you, then spell, like any kind of words that comes up that he wants you to spell. So you can play that kind of game, like
Yes.
vocabulary games. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And another kind of game you can play is like an anagram game. If you don't know what an anagram is, basically it's just a bunch of letters that stand for something, and you have to figure out what the word is, well, what it forms, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah. So let's say you have let's say you have a word. Okay, hold on. I gotta give you a example. Example. Wait, hold on. And hold on. I'm googling it for you because I can't think of one off the top of my head. All right.
Hmm.
So when you scramble a word to create a new word, you've got an anagram. So for example, well, the word anagram in itself is okay. Here we go. Cat. Okay. The anagram for cat is three letters, right? CAT. An anagram means you can move the letters around and create another word.
Hmm.
So you take cat, CAT, and you can turn it into act, ACT, same three letters, excuse me. The word inch, INCH, It's an anagram for, you're going to rearrange INCH and you can make the word chin, CHIN. How about, how about brag, BRAG? Rearrange it, you can make grab, GRAB. So these are anagrams, and you can play these anagram games as well. So, I mean, there's some way more elaborate ones too. For example, an anagram for a gentleman is elegant man. Yes, you can take those letters from a gentleman and turn it into two words, elegant man. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Vacation
Yeah.
time. What's the anagram for that? Vacation time. The anagram for that is I am not active. So you see, it's crazy, right? But anyway, so
Right.
if you play these kind of fun games, you're gonna surprise yourself what you can do.
Yeah. Like Wheel of Fortune. I'm sure there's a Wheel of Fortune there too. That's another thing
Oh
that you can play.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
play that game.
That's a
That's a good
fun
one.
one. Yeah.
I'm sure there's an
Hmm.
online version of that you can play too.
Yes. Yes, there is. Mm.
Clint Eastwood, famous Western actor, American.
Mm.
Eastwood. The anagram is Old West action. How perfect is that? Is that
Wow.
crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Nice.
Okay. What else? What else do we want to tell people? More tips. More tips.
More tips. Ooh.
More tips.
Like things that you want to do about vocabulary words. I mean, write things down on your notebook or a piece of paper or
Oh
maybe
yeah.
flashcards and things.
Yes.
So, also another thing is like people say, well, how am I going to improve my grammar and how can I write things? Write yourself like a diary, like everyday diary, right? You write it
Mhm.
down, nobody's there to review it. You know, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, go back and look at your grammar and you'll be able to correct your grammar and you can see your mistakes, how you were 3 months ago. So, do a daily, you know, diary of yourself, like what you did today or, yesterday. What did you do? You went to the park, you went swimming, you did some sport, you did some study, just write about your thing, your diary on an everyday thing. And you can look it up later, or maybe you can type it on Google Translate to see if what you did was correct, kind of like compare, right? Or,
Yeah.
like I said, maybe visit it maybe 1 month, 2 months later and take a look at it, and you'll be able to correct your own grammar. And you say, wow, I can't believe I made this type of mistake, because every month you tend to improve as long as you stay consistent and disciplined.
So I love the idea of you telling people to, write a journal, because the beauty of that is, like, you'll write, your entry, what you did that day, and let's say 3 months, 6 months later, read it and
Hmm.
see, as you've developed your vocabulary, reread what you wrote 3 months or 6 months ago, and you can maybe look at it and be like, oh, you know what, I actually could use this word instead, because now I know this word and it's actually a better word to use than what I used 6 months ago. So then you can rewrite what you wrote with better vocabulary that you now know. So that's a really good exercise. First of all,
Hmm.
first of all, write a journal, write journal entries, keep a journal, and then several
Hmm.
months later, read it and then rewrite what you wrote. Or maybe if you,
Yeah.
let's say you don't want to rewrite because you're, okay, we're all a
Hmm.
little bit lazy. Even if
Hmm.
you're not, even if you weren't going to rewrite everything, you could just like you could just read what you wrote several months ago, and you can
Hmm.
point out, you can sort of see, hey, that word, no, there's a better word. You can just spot words that
Yeah.
you can improve upon, right? So
And also there's spelling. It helps you in your spelling. You can go back 3 months and say, wow, I
yeah,
spelled it incorrectly. Mm.
yes, so do that. That's good. um
Hmm.
Also, you should
Flashcards too.
also,
Hmm.
along the lines of writing, when you come across new words throughout your day, whether you're watching a TV show or talking to people, just open up the notes app on your phone. I doubt
Hmm.
anybody uses paper anymore, so just open up
Yeah.
the app on your phone and just take down a word that you might have just heard somewhere. You don't have to,
Hmm.
look, you don't have to stop people from talking, you don't have to stop watching a
Hmm.
movie, but just open up your app and write down that word and look it up later. Look it up later.
Hmm.
Maybe if you're in a movie, take down at what point in the movie, which at
Hmm.
which minute, right? Like at
Hmm.
45 minutes 20 seconds. This word I came across. Do that. That's very helpful. So that
Mhm.
you can look up the word later when you're done with the movie. You'll find out what it means, and then you can go back to exactly that place, that spot in the movie, and listen to how that word is used again. That way you get the context. So do that. That's good.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, what else here? How about well, as we're talking about movies, I would advise you all to watch movies and TV shows with subtitles. Now, you might be thinking, "Oh, my no, my English is good. I understand most of it. I don't need subtitles." Look,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean your English is bad by using subtitles. You will be surprised. I promise you, this is going to happen. Even if your English is really good, if you turn on the subtitles, in English, what you're going to see is that the word that you thought is not the word that was actually used, right? Because there are
Mhm.
homophones, right? Words that
Mhm.
sound a certain way but are written differently. Wait, is that what a homophone is? No, maybe. Don't wait. Hold on a second. What is the one
Homophones
where
are homophones are the same pronunciation but different spelling. Yeah.
that's it? Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
I can't. Sorry, I can't teach grammar, so but
Mhm.
I'm glad I got that right. Okay. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is like you might have heard a certain word, and of course like you know what it means, but you might be surprised. Oh, that's how it's spelled. That is why you
Mhm.
should turn on the English subtitles because
Mhm.
you'll
Mhm.
learn proper spelling that way, right? So you'll know
Mhm.
definitively the word that you understood. And if your English isn't that good, you should turn on subtitles anyway so that you can connect what you hear to the word on the screen. That's going to help you learn new vocabulary. And then if your English really is not that good, really not that good, turn on subtitles in your native language so at least you understand what is being said in the TV show, in the movie, and then down the road you can turn on the English subtitles. But no, subtitles
Mhm.
are excellent, excellent. As an English learner, you've got to turn on subtitles. It does not
Mhm.
mean your English is bad. It's a great way to reinforce your English.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great the way you mentioned it because here's what I also tell my students when you're wanting to learn, improve in your listening and also in your speaking too, is you watch a movie, right? Say, for example, you're going to watch a 2 hour movie. You're going to watch the first 30 minutes without subtitle. Take out the subtitle. Watch it, listen to it, see if you understand it. After 30 minutes, go back, put the subtitle, and then listen to it again. And then see if what you heard the first time was actually correct. After you do the first 30 minutes, then you turn off the subtitles and watch the next 30 minutes. And then once you reach the 30 minutes, go back to that 30 minutes, put on the subtitle, and then
Oh,
listen it again, and then see if you're actually hearing the correct thing. So what you're doing is that you're improving your listening to see how well is your listening part. And it's also going to improve your listening. At the same time, when you're watching movies like this, you're going to actually mimic or shadow some of the characters, like, when they're doing a character. Like, say, for example, Captain America said something, you're going to repeat exactly the same as what Captain America said, like, the pronunciation, the intonation, and you're just going to mimic it. And then even though you may have not heard it correctly, but at least you kind of sound like it. And then you're watching it, and then you repeat another, say, Iron Man, and you mimic that Iron Man what he said. Whether he said something, you're gonna mimic what he said, and also the intonation, the pronunciation. So you're getting two things at that movie. You're listening, and then when you're mimicking, you're getting the speaking part. So this is a great tool of you to actually practice for those people who studies and people who can't afford classes because of the financial burden or financial difficulties that they have. Now, for me, I'm going to even take it further because maybe a lot of English teachers may hate me or what, but that's okay. I'm used to that anyhow. A lot of English teachers, they tend to use this, and also schools, about using maybe characters like movies, or some parts of the movie, or some parts of the music, and then they're going to question, did you hear it correctly? Did what do you think of this and that? For me, it's a great way of teaching, but for me, if you're paying somebody to teach you this type of thing, you can do this on your own. Why are you paying that? I mean, why is a teacher teaching that? My methodology is different. Why? For me, is like, you got to go somewhere, because I guess it's your traditional type of teaching, and I'm not your traditional teacher. So for me, it's a great tool of giving you some movies, and they're going to ask, uh, questions like maybe a sentence or two. Did you hear it correctly? What do you think of it? For me, if you're doing that route, okay. But if they're gonna teach you that way and see if you can mimic, see if you can pronounce it, for me, the way I look at it, you can do that on your own. Why you need a teacher for? You don't need a teacher for that. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I may be controversial in this kind of opinion and what I say, but just my opinion, and I'm pretty straightforward and I tell it like it is. So that's my opinion. I don't know about if Ben may have a different way of it, but this is a thing that I just wanted to add on and say about.
I think you make a good point about uh, that's something you can do on your own. You don't need a teacher. A teacher adds no value to that. That's something you need to do actually you really need to do on your own anyway. It's not something that you should do with
Yes,
somebody else.
exactly.
You know?
hmm Why are you paying some teacher to where you can do that on your own? That's the way I look at it. If you're gonna be watching movies, and you're gonna go to class and you're gonna be doing the same thing, why am I paying for this? Why I can do this on my own? I mean, yeah, if some people who have difficulty learning on their own, okay, maybe if you want to go that route, yeah, cool. But for me, why are you gonna spend all that money and you can do that on your own? That's the way I look at it. You got to be something more value to it. You have to add some kind of value. Yeah.
Yep. So definitely watch the movie with subtitles, do some shadowing, and
hmm
that's all. That's a great tip. That is something that you should definitely do. Um,
Since we're on this tip and I kind of like, I'm on a roll or something like that, but something I also want you listeners to understand is that a lot of, the podcast here, that we're doing a lot of conversation, and it's not just a conversation that, okay, two Americans having a conversation. No, it's not about the conversation itself. It's actually helping you listen to what we're saying, and it's building that vocabulary and also the pronunciation. It's helping you because this is how we talk as natives, formal, informal, casual. It gives you added vocabulary words. Like for example, Ben and I are talking about food. We're talking about food stuff like restaurants and things. This is excellent for you to learn and listen, and because you're learning the food vocabularies, restaurants, and what's taking place is expanding because it's not just about the grammar and all that. I mean, it's also uh, understanding how being in a restaurant, and also you're learning the vocabulary, the sentences, how we speak. I mean, for me it's great, and it's not just like food. It's also like maybe vacation trips, or also racism, discrimination, where you have to talk about those topics, government issues, all of the things that we're talking about on the podcast. These are actually English. This is actually vocabulary, sentences, casual, formal, informal. I mean, everything. You get it all. It just depends on how you use it, and a lot of English learners don't really critically think. They say, "Oh, it's a conversation. I don't want this. It's going to improve my listening. No, I don't want this." No, you got to take it beyond that. You got to, in order for you to speak better, pronounce better, you got to listen and you got to repeat. You got to do these things. So I just wanted to add that because, you know, I don't know what Ben's view is it, but I just wanted to say this. Yeah.
I think definitely listening to these podcasts that we do on different topics is a great way to sort of boots on the ground, really understanding how to use certain words and phrases, how to speak English contextually appropriately, right? Using
hmm
not only the right words, but using the mood, setting the right mood when you speak, and the it's just if you want to sound native and natural, you have to listen to native speak in a variety of situations. And like we had said before, that if you're, for example, an engineer, you have a certain job, you want to improve that aspect of your English for that purpose, then of course you want to be very targeted in the type of English that you consume. But if you just want to improve your English in general, then you have to be very broad in the type of content that you consume and what you listen to, not just a one type of thing. So, for example, you're into politics. You're not going to only listen to political podcasts. You have to listen widely. And that's why we
hmm
do a variety of different topics. We don't just stick with one type of topic. I mean, it would be very easy to just grow a channel on This is how you learn English. And every single podcast is about learning English. Every single podcast is teaching you grammar. That's a very easy way. That's a very easy, and I would argue almost a lazy way of teaching English, which many channels do, and they do it
Hmm.
very effectively. But they don't help you learn English completely. They only help you learn one aspect of English. And as we all know, uh, English learning, indeed language learning, is holistic. And so we try to provide a holistic experience here for you guys by discussing a variety of topics. And through a discussion of a variety of topics, you see how certain words are used, when they're used, how they're used, the intonation when we use these certain words. They all take on different context and meaning depending on what you're talking about. So anyway, that's uh, that's why you should listen as much as you should read widely. You should also listen widely and consume content widely, not just
Hmm.
one type of content. I mean, imagine if you were to own you like classic movies, Leon. Let's say you like classic movies, Leon. Imagine you're only watching black and white movies from, like, the 1950s.
Hmm.
That's not, I mean, people don't talk like the way they did today,
Yes.
like the way they did in the 50s. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's not all that
Yes.
helpful at a certain
Hmm.
point. So that's why that's my best illustration for why you should listen widely.
Hmm. And remember, folks, when you going to work, especially dealing with a lot of natives, or you're working international and you're dealing with international people, and you work for an international company, everything is not all about work. It's not all about the work that you do. In order to build that business connection, you actually have to talk about other things. Like how's your family? How's everything there? What's the weather like? Something casual. You want to build that relationship. So these are part of the conversation. I know a lot of students says, I'm very technical, but I can't talk like, just a sociable event, and I
Oh,
have
interesting.
difficulty. Right. So because what they learn is the formal stuff. They're not used to talking in a sociable kind of environment, and they have difficulty. Some people are very shy, and they don't have that social skills. So that's why these conversations that we do helps build you in that. And these, conversation are added vocabulary and sentences, and it helps you widen your scope of your sentences, your speaking, your vocabulary, etc.
Yes, absolutely. And I just one last point before we wrap up is, um, have fun with it, right? I think that as a language learner, you have a lot of leeway. What I mean by that is that you can make mistakes, and it's okay. People are not going to make fun of you. In fact, like, if I'm okay, when I speak Italian, I make a lot of mistakes. Maybe I use, and I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so I was at a pharmacy, and I was talking to this woman, and we got to talk in Italian. We got to talking about American food, and I was saying that it seems like the food in Italy has less preservatives, is more natural. The word I used was preservativo, which, I thought it is an Italian word, but guess what? Preservativo does not mean preservatives. What was really funny was, do you know what it means? Do you know what
Uh-huh.
it
No,
means,
I
the
don't
word?
know. I thought it meant preservative. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
was laughing.
exactly. I used the
Yeah.
wrong word. It
Mhm.
means condoms. Yeah, so I
Okay.
said, so basically what I said, American foods don't contain as many condoms. And then she looked at me really funny, and she's like, "Are you
Uh,
sure?" I go, "Oh yes, absolutely." And then only to later find out that I spoke the wrong thing. But what I'm saying is, like, people, you can have fun with it. You'll make mistakes. You'll laugh.
yeah.
You'll bond with the person over your mistake, and that's okay. It's
Yes.
actually kind of endearing when people who are learning the language make these silly mistakes. So you need not worry about that. From that, you
Hmm.
learn. And now I know.
Hmm.
I now know how to use that word preservativo like I would never have been able to memorize. Do you know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that moment of slight embarrassment, but at the same time, I thought it was funny. Now I
Hmm.
got it. Like I
Yeah.
I got it now. And so if you
Hmm.
have that moment, that's like actually a very good moment. You should not worry about having these kind of little subtle, little bit embarrassing moments like that. So just enjoy the
Hmm.
process, and
Hmm.
try to learn it naturally. And if you can, have that laugh over it, then you got it. Then you totally got it.
Mhm. And we're just scratching the surface right now. I mean, we have a lot more tips that we didn't discuss about, and we will continue to add more value and tips and for you English learners out there. So, in order to do that, you got to make sure to, listen to the podcast and the things that we discuss about.
Absolutely. So let's wrap up. I think we
Hmm.
did. I think we did. We gave people a good list of things.
Hmm.
So yeah, let's end here. But thank you so much, Leon.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. See y'all later.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. So talk to you in the comments. Thank you very much. See you all next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye for now.
Ciao, everyone.